Our top story, police have cleared out Occupy protester camps in New York, reportedly using pepper spray and tear gas on the demonstrators. The raid comes after activists vowed heightened action this coming Thursday, marking 2 months since the movement started. RT's Marina Portnaya is joining us live from New York with more. Hello, Marina. So there are claims of police brutality. What information do you have on this?
Well, right now, as you mentioned, the park, Zuccotti Park, has been cleared out, according to the New York City Police Department, but hundreds of activists are still down there, as are hundreds of police officers, including those dressed in riot gear. There have been several reports of injuries and arrests, and there have been images that we have seen of police getting violent when some of the protesters tackling some of them, dragging them by arms and legs. Sound cannons have been reportedly used on the activists in Zuccotti Park that refused to leave after the NYPD came down around 1 a.m. Tuesday morning and demanded that all activists clear the park. There have been reports of serious injuries. There have been we've seen video of what appears to be police using pepper spray and tear gas on the activists, on those taking part in Occupy Wall Street. Paddy wagons are still on the scene, and those paddy wagons are being loaded with dozens and dozens of the Occupy supporters that have been and continue to be arrested by the NYPD. Now, the tents that we've seen basically landscape Zuccotti Park for the past month have been torn down by the police officers that went into the park. Personal items that belong to activists were destroyed. NYPD has reportedly destroyed thousands of books that were donated to the Occupy movement over the past 2 months. Let's remember that this wasn't just a park that was filled with tents. They had a first aid center. They had a cafeteria, so-called cafeteria where they serve food. They had a library where some activists say there were up to 5,000 books in that library. And all of the personal belongings have been destroyed, those belongings that activists didn't remove. And it's safe to say that the majority of activists didn't remove anything because the majority of them refused to leave the park. Now, when the NYPD came down, they explained to the activists that they had to temporarily vacate Zuccotti Park because the police department had to inspect the area, remove all the tents, and they said it was a health issue and the park needed to be inspected. Now, according to city officials, the activists will be allowed back into Zuccotti Park, but they will not be allowed, according to what the city is saying, they will not be allowed to occupy it in the way they have been the past 2 months. That includes pitching tents, that includes basically living there. And so clearly this is a surprise sweep that came to the Occupy Wall Street headquarters here in New York City.
Now, briefly, there have been raids on similar camps in other U.S. cities. Does it appear that there's a clampdown on protesters that's moving into another level, a higher gear, so to speak?
That's clearly what it looks like. It looks like this is not just a New York City clampdown, but a nationwide clampdown, as we saw in the past day or so in Oakland, California. The Occupy movement that was based there was also evacuated. And we saw similar incidents or arrests take place in Portland and other cities, as you mentioned. So clearly this isn't limited to New York City, but it means the most happening here in New York City because this is where the movement began nearly 2 months ago. And it's also worth noting that on Thursday, the 2-month anniversary of the Occupy Wall Street movement, organizers or those taking part in the movement were planning and continue to be planning a day-long events. And students were going to be coming out, many union workers potentially coming out, but the big draw of the day, according to those taking part in the movement, was that they were planning or going to attempt to shut down the New York Stock Exchange. Clearly, this is a concern for the leaders of New York City, the city officials, and maybe they wanted to take preemptive action. Who knows if this will incite or provoke the activists to actually gather more momentum for Thursday. But if we could base any prediction on the past, this is clearly not going to deter them. It may even inspire them to gather more support and more momentum. So Thursday, I believe, will be a huge day in New York City. We'll see what happens. Of course, we hope things stay peaceful, but looking at the images that are coming out in the past 4 or 5 hours, it doesn't look so peaceful. These clashes are continuing to take place among police officers in the Occupy movement.
All right, we'll have to see how it goes. Marina Portnoy reporting live from New York. Thanks for that.
Sure.